Okay, good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Welcome to Planning Commission. Tonight's March 2nd, Lafayette Planning Commission. We will go ahead and start the meeting. It's just about 7 o'clock and we'll start with attendance and roll call. Commissioner Labange,
Present.
Commissioner DeGiorgio,
Present.
Commissioner Mason,
Present.
Vice Chair Deming,
Present.
and I'm Commissioner Radnich. I'm here. Can I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4 on tonight's agenda is public comments. So right now is an opportunity. If you do have comments that you would like to make for an item not on tonight's agenda, now would be the time if you want to fill out a speaker slip and hand it to staff. I don't see any for items not on the agenda, and staff's indicating there's none online. Okay. Item 5, consent calendar. We have one item to continue the item without discussion to March 16th. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6A, new public hearing. This one is a request for multiple things: state density bonus, major subdivision, grading permit, category 2 tree permit, and it goes on. So I'll turn it over to staff for presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, just waiting for the presentation to show. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Yes, as the chair stated, this is a request for a state density bonus and design review, major subdivision, grading permit, category 2 tree permit, public art permit application, which is being processed under SB 330, which limits the project to a maximum of 5 public hearings. In addition, the project is being processed pursuant to AB 130, which establishes a statutory exemption for certain environmental review requirements. This is the context slide. The property info includes the site, which is located at 3458 Mount Diablo Boulevard. The lot size is 0.64 acres. The zoning is C1. The general plan designation is Downtown East End District. The surrounding land uses are to the north, multifamily residential, to the south, the McDonald's, to the east, Merrill Gardens, and to the west, commercial office complex. So the project went through a study session May 12th in 2025, and as well as a public meeting February 9th, 2026. And this slide summarizes the key changes since those meetings, which includes a reduction from 31 units to 30 units, a height increase from 58 to 62 feet, 3 inches, massing, added upper level step backs on the south, east, and west elevations to reduce perceived bulk. The main facade along Mount Diablo, they replaced the dog wash bike storage area with 2 commercial spaces on the ground floor. They expanded the planting area and added trees along Mount Diablo frontage. They reduced the thickness of balcony posts, open trellis elements above the balconies, removed the horizontal banding to simplify the facade, and eliminated corrugated metal panels and replace them with light gray cement plaster. The current submittal replaces a previous proposed, as mentioned earlier, the dog wash and bicycle storage area along Mount Diablo Boulevard frontage with 2 new commercial tenant spaces. The residential entry at the corner of Mount Diablo Boulevard and Second Street has been refined into a more defined entry plaza with integrated stepbacks and pedestrian walkway. Additionally, a public art program will be developed within the entry plaza. The updated plans show expanded and more continuous planting areas along both frontages. Additional street trees have been added to soften the building's presence. At the study session and public meeting, the Design Review Commission provided feedback regarding density, building massing and height, balcony projections, banding, and the main facade along Mount Diablo Boulevard. The revised design introduces more stepbacks at the upper floors. Materials are now used more intentionally with lighter materials framing edges and darker materials emphasizing the recessed planes. Ground floor glazing and storefront elements are more prominent. The balcony placement and window groupings appear to be more varied. 2 commercial tenant spaces are now included along the street frontage. Reduced thickness of balcony posts, open trellis elements above balconies, and removal of the horizontal banding to simplify the facade. On the rear elevation, as seen from Orchard Hill Boulevard, the revised plan include a staircase to improve access from Orchard Hill Court and incorporates upper level step backs, and the horizontal banding was also removed on this elevation. On the on the right elevation, as seen from Second Street, the Design Review Commission expressed concerns about the 2-story parking podium, particularly along Second Street and Mount Diablo Boulevard. The podium was described as a 2-story blank wall for pedestrians. The applicant attempted to address the DRC's concern by adding residential units, wood siding, and architectural detailing, refined entry plaza, and they removed the horizontal banding and eliminated the corrugated metal. And on the left elevation, the Design Review Commission commented that the design of the building was boxy. In response, the revised plans incorporate stepbacks at the uppermost residential levels, add trellis elements and upper level decks to further break up the building's bulk. This is the level 1 and 2 floor plans. The level 1 floor plan includes 29 parking stalls, 2 commercial units, a mail and package room, trash facility room, long-term bike room, and the lobby area. Level 2 includes 25 parking stalls, 2 2-bedroom, very low income units, commercial mezzanine, fitness room, lounge, restroom, electrical room. The level 3 floor plan includes 2 and 3-bedroom units, private and shared outdoor space. And level 4 includes 2 and 3-bedroom units, 1 2-bedroom medium income units, and private decks. Level 5 includes 2 and 3-bedroom units. It features private decks. Level 6 all includes 3-bedroom units, private decks, a dedicated residential club serving as a primary indoor amenity space for all residents. The parking and access plan, on level 1, access is from Second Street. There are, as mentioned earlier, 29 parking stalls, a 24-foot drive aisle, 5-foot pedestrian circulation, and level 2 includes access from Orchard Hill, 29 parking stalls, 24-foot drive aisle, and 5-foot pedestrian circulation. Regarding the landscape and open space, the Design Review Commission emphasized the importance of landscaping to soften massing and reduce boxiness, especially at the podium level and along facades. To address the DRC's feedback, the revised plans include on the first level, continuous planting areas along both Mount Diablo Boulevard and Second Street to break down the building's massing, a visible residential entry plaza located at the corner, and a public art program. Street trees are proposed along the main facade on Mount Diablo Boulevard, stormwater treatment. And on the second level, the perimeter of the building features outdoor patio decks that wrap around the residential units. These terraces include a mix of raised planters, seating areas, and shared gathering spaces accessible from common areas. The outdoor spaces are directly connected to the resident lounge. The roof plan, there are 2 designated areas are enclosed by mechanical screens to hide HVAC and other utility equipment from public view. Staff roof is centrally located. The elevator roof is positioned near the center south. Multi-clerestory elements are distributed across the plan, providing natural light to the levels below. This is the material and colors board. As far as siding and panels, there will be composite wood siding panels, wood composite panel in dark gray, cement board wall panels. The metal finishes includes perforated metal panels for the balcony railings. And as far as concrete and glazing, CIP board form concrete wall, cement plaster wall in smooth and gray, aluminum windows in blue-gray color, and a green screen wall. This is a rendering. To the left is the street view and southeast corner. And to the right is the aerial view, street frontage. And this rendering on the left is a view of the entry plaza to the commercial space. And the rendering on the right is the eye level view of the commercial spaces. The project also proposes a major subdivision. They are proposing to remove the property lines that divide parcel 3 and 4 and removal of an existing 5-foot sewer easement to create 30 condominium units, 2 commercial units, and common areas. Regarding tree protection, under the city's code, all trees in commercial zoning districts are protected. Removal requires approval and mitigation. The existing and proposed removal includes 20 trees, and the removal includes 18 trees to accommodate the building footprint, the driveway access, and public improvements. The replacement requirement includes 18 replacement trees in 15-gallon size. The proposed mitigation includes 3 24-inch box white crepe myrtles and 3 24-inch box fairy magnolias. The proposed mitigation does not meet code requirements, and a waiver is requested under state density bonus law. The project proposes a density of 23 dwelling units per acre, which is well below the maximum 35 units per acre allowed under the C1 zoning district. While the code requires 10 feet for the front, side, and rear, the project proposes between 0 to 10 feet to accommodate the building footprint on the corner. Waivers are requested for the minimum required setbacks, The maximum height is 35 feet, but the project proposes a height of 62 feet, 3 inches. A waiver is being requested for the height as well. The code requires a 10-foot landscape setback from any property line. The applicant is requesting a waiver to reduce this to between 0 and 10 feet. The project complies with the parking requirement in terms of the number of parking spaces. Regarding inclusionary housing and density bonus, the site has a base density of 35 units per acre, which allows for 23 by right units. Applying the 15% requirement to the 23 unit base results in 3.45 below market rate units, while the 0.45 fraction would normally trigger an in lieu fee. The city has not yet adopted a fee resolution, so only the whole units are required. The applicant is providing 3 below market rate units, 2 very low units, and 1 moderate income unit. By providing these affordable units, the project qualifies for a 27.5% density bonus under density bonus law. So the total allowable units combined with the 5% credit for lot consolidation under the housing element allows for a maximum of 31 units. The applicant is proposing 30 units. The city's municipal code requires that affordable units be dispersed throughout the building and be comparable to market rate units in both bedroom count and exterior design. The project consists of 30 total units, 27 market rate and 3 below market rate, including 20 two-bedroom units and 10 three-bedroom units. The proportional BMR requirement is 2 two-bedroom units and 1 three-bedroom unit. All 3-bedroom units are 2-bedroom configurations. The 2 very low income units are situated on the second level east of the garage. Because the BMR units are all 2-bedroom units rather than a proportional mix of 2 and 3 bedrooms and are concentrated in specific areas, the applicant is requesting a concession under state density bonus law. This specific design concession requires approval by city council. The applicant, regarding a density bonus, this table summarizes the waivers that are being requested. Waivers are allowed for the project if they physically constrict the design. Under state law, a waiver is a request to deviate from developmental standards that would otherwise physically preclude the project from being built at the proposed density. Unlike concessions, there is no statutory limit on the number of waivers an applicant can request, provided they directly relate to the physical necessity of the construction. Concessions are deviations from local requirements intended to result in actual cost reductions for the development. Because this project includes at least 5% of its units for a very low income household, it is legally eligible for waivers and 1 concession under state density bonus law. The applicant is currently requesting a series of waivers covering parking design, height, landscaping setbacks, minimum side and rear yard setbacks, building design, 3rd story setback, and as well as the tree protection replacement requirement and a concession for the inclusionary unit bedroom count and distribution. The project is being processed under AB 130, which mandates consultation with traditionally and culturally affiliated California Native American tribes. A formal meeting was held on January 14, 2026, involving the tribe, the applicant team, and city staff. Protection of cultural resources and tribal monitoring. The tribe has requested active monitoring during ground disturbing activities. Specific protocols have been established for the treatment of any tribal cultural resources found during construction, and all requested protective measures are incorporated into the project's formal conditions of approval to ensure compliance. The project was referred to other outside departments and agencies. The city engineer mainly commented on the garage access from Orchard Hill Court, the location of two nose-in parking spaces, the replacement of deteriorated sidewalks, and stormwater treatment. The fire district needs to verify the water supply, determine compliance with emergency escape and rescuing open requirements, requires a land development permit, and fire district approval is required prior to issuance of a building permit. Regarding the sanitation district, the applicant is processing a quick claim for an existing 5-foot sewer easement. And the Public Art Committee noted that the building's blocky design and emphasized that art must be accessible to the public, not on private rooftops. And the landscape consultant noted that there were concerns around the tree replacement ratios. These were the two stormwater treatment options that the applicant proposed to address the site's runoff. Our city engineer prefers option 1. This option places the treatment facilities along Second Street. It is the preferred choice because it aligns with the site's natural drainage, allowing water to flow by gravity. This follows LID principles. It's more reliable and carries lower operational costs because it does not rely on mechanical pumps. The primary downside is the removal of 3 on-street parking spaces along Second Street. Option 2, which would be located on Mount Diablo Boulevard, will have alternative treatment facilities along that street. While this preserves 1 extra parking space compared to option 1, it requires a pump system because of site grading constraints. The engineer reviews this as a secondary option due to higher construction costs, increased maintenance, and a significantly higher potential for system failure over time. At the February 9th meeting, the Design Review Commission selected option 1 as the preferred option. Because this is a new multifamily development in the downtown specific plan area, it is subject to Phase 1 objective design standards. This slide summarizes where the project meets the standards for outdoor space. 43 points were achieved where 25 were required. Ground level plaza and commercial glazing provide high visibility and pedestrian engagement. Under creek and landscaping, they met the requirements, provides 240 square feet of planting and 2 street trees or 2 trees in the front setback. Under parking and circulation, they met this standard. All parking is within the building podium, no surface parking in the front setback. Regarding height and scale, they met the standards for, they receive high articulation scores through balconies, material changes, and fenestration variations. Regarding building design, they would be able to meet that with a waiver. While the second floor exceeds the 95% floor area limit due to the parking podium, upper levels, third and roof feature significant setbacks. The downtown design guidelines provide a qualitative guidance for development within downtown Lafayette and are intended to implement the vision of the downtown specific plan. The project reflects several of the downtown design guidelines objective as described in the staff report. The project is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan as described in the staff report. For land use, the land use element, mixed use support aligns with Go LU-8, policy LU-83 by proposing a new development that integrates residential units without conflicting with downtown retail focus. It has economic benefits consistent with Go LU-9 and policy LU-91 by providing ground floor commercial space intended to serve local needs and achieve the tax and enhance the tax base. For the circulation element, it has multimodal mobility, pedestrian connectivity, supports C-6 through a well-designed system of walkways that connect the site to the downtown core and public transportation. Alternative transit furthers Go C-8 and policy C-82 by providing 23 bicycle spaces, encouraging safe cycling alternatives to single occupant vehicles. Under the housing element, inclusive growth, vibrant downtown promotes Go 2 and policy 2.2 by encouraging a mix of residential and commercial uses through coordinated downtown zoning. Fair housing and choice address Go 5 and Go 6 by introducing new housing choices, 2 and 3 bedroom units and 3 dedicated below market rate units. Infill efficiency consistent with Go 8 and policy 8.1 by utilizing an existing infill site to leverage current infrastructure efficiently. Growth management element, coordinated planning, land use coordination meets Go C-4 by coordinating circulation planning with high density residential. Diverse housing option fulfills Go H2 and policies H2.1, H-2.7 by developing diverse housing types in a commercial area where visibility is maintained and infrastructure is optimized. The project has been evaluated in accordance with CEQA and is determined to be statutorily exempt pursuant to AB 130 as described in the staff report. As part of the standard process, we mailed notices to all owners within 500 feet radius and posted notices in the immediate area. The public comment was attached to the staff report. Therefore, based on the record as a whole, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2026-02, recommending that the City Council approve the project subject to conditions under Exhibit A. This concludes the staff report. Feel free to ask any questions. We also have the applicant team here, and they also have a presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask commissioners, are there any clarifying questions for staff? Commissioner Mason?
Yes, concern is the waiver to reduce the drive aisle width from 26 to 24 feet because it's been 26 forever. Can you pull up the first and second level plans? I wanted to see where the handicap accessible parking spaces are because I was mostly concerned about handicap vans being able to operate in the reduced drive aisle width.
And if it pleases the commission, we could ask the applicant to
Yes.
address that in their presentation or rebuttal.
Yeah, that's correct. I was going to give staff the first option and then, commission can weigh in.
Okay, so I think we'll save that one then for the applicant's team. And then if we need to follow up with staff, we can. Thank you. Commissioner Mason, any other
Nope.
questions? Okay, any others for staff? Commissioner Deming?
Sorry, can you just clarify again? The below market rate units, there was the 3 2-bedrooms and no 3-bedrooms, but you also said they were located kind of in one area, which I know is all, I didn't catch where they were located.
They're located adjacent to the parking. Yes.
Got,
On the
okay,
second level.
yeah, okay. Sorry, fault. They're on the parking level, so that was it. Was that they're on the second floor? It wasn't they were necessarily like grouped around like the entrance or something like that.
Yeah, I think the applicant can demonstrate where they are locationally, and if that's not available to the applicant during their presentation, we can share that as well. Are you prepared to bring up the, Monica? Are you
Yes.
prepared to bring up the
Yes, I have their presentation.
Thank you.
plans to illustrate?
Yes,
where
I have
they-
the plans
Okay.
too. Yes.
Commissioner Labange?
Just was curious, were story poles required of this? And if not, I mean, I don't know how high story poles go, but I'm just curious if they were, I didn't see them.
They were not required of this. The applicant said that it would be difficult to install the story poles as there were existing tenants on site.
I'm sorry. what?
There are existing tenants on site.
Okay. Is there anything in staff, and I'll just, for applicant to, maybe they can answer this too. Anything visual that we can see tonight that would show the relative height of this proposed building to anything around it, either in block massing or any other form? I didn't see it in the report, so I'm gonna assume the answer is no. So I'll just let the applicant answer that one.
The applicant might have, they have renderings, but I don't know if the applicant prepared anything regarding that.
I think for anything that's got waivers of height, and just high things, we should always have that. It just, I'd hate to look back 2 years and have, people in the town go, you guys didn't know how tall this was? So
Mhm.
anyways.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, would like to welcome the applicant team. If the applicant team would like to present for 10 minutes. You don't have to if you would like to.
Thank you.
I don't know if that one is plugged in. So maybe if you, what am I going to the
Yeah,
podium?
particularly if you're going to be using a laser pointer, the angle of that from a seated position directly in front of the commission is questionable. So I would ask you to use the lectern standing, and the microphone is, if you press the button, it should become active. You can tap it to, nope.
Yeah, that is.
Hello? Yeah.
Perfect.
That's on. Thank you.
Good evening to the Planning Commission. My name is Götz Frank, and with me here is Paul Farrow. We are principals at Ascend Architecture, and we are the architects on the project. The Planning Commission and Monica, they already gave.
Excuse me, do you mind maybe raising the microphone?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Is that better?
yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, the Planning Commission's presentation was already quite extensive. So we wanted to focus more on maybe showing you some of the renderings and then highlighting the changes that we've done to the project. We had already a number of meetings, and we tried after each meeting to incorporate the changes into the project and make the project a better project. Also responding to the comments. So maybe next, if we can go. So here you can see a rendering that is from the southeast side from Mount Diablo. And that was the previous version. And then if you go next, so here, these are the changes that we incorporated after the last DRC meeting. So we have removed these facade bands that were on here on the facade to give more calmer massing and a more unified appearance. We also opened up the trellises that are up here, so they're lighter, and that is open up the view to the sky. We have reduced the frame around this balcony, pulled it more inwards and make it more lighter. And we changed the material spec for these wide volumes that occur all around the building, from corrugated metal to a more warm white stucco, which the DRC thought was asking us to propose a material that was less urban and a bit more in harmony with a more rural environment. So that's what we came up with. So next, so this is the view from southwest from Mount Diablo. And so again, that was the previous version. And then if you go next, that is basically, that's now the version with all the updates. You can see here on the corner, the more softer, less shiny material. This is the stucco. We added also a tree to the front of the facade, just to provide more landscaping in ours for our building. So you can go next. This is a view from 2nd Street across the street. There's an existing large tree here in the foreground. And there's no change since the last iteration, but this was a view that we showed already the last time. It's just showing the level of street activation that we tried to achieve with the project. So we have this large lobby, 2-story lobby space on the corner. There will be an art work placed on the 2-story space here behind this screen. And we have a small entry plaza here at the corner with steps where you can walk down. And here you can see the tree that we incorporated in this walkway. And that walkway leads to 2 commercial spaces that the applicant also added after the first meeting with the design review board. And then on the side, you can also see there we added these 2 residential unit in the podium to enliven the podium area. And the parking program is really almost entirely wrapped by activated program. So there is parking on the inside here, but on the outside you cannot really. It doesn't look like a parking garage. So next. Yeah, these are just the area plans. You've seen them already, so we can go next. This was a graphic just showing the areas that we pulled back after the first meeting. So where we just tried to reduce the roof plan, like the upper floor plan. You can see all areas in green were pulled in, so that the building recedes back on the top. Okay, next. And that is also a comparison to the initial scheme that we presented after, and then the changes that were made after the first DRC meeting. So you can see that the large 4-story element and a bigger presence to the front. And then on the right-hand side, you can see how we basically pulled this down. So it's now a 3-story element and the top is pulled in. So next. This is showing you the old version on the ground floor had a bike parking and a dog wash. And then the comment was that the DRC desired to have a higher level of activation of the pedestrian space. So then on the updated version, you can see that the applicant added 2 commercial spaces. And so, yeah, we thought that was actually a great commitment by the applicant because it's obviously not easy to operate these commercial spaces and really find tenants. But yeah, so next. And there you can see the second floor of the podium. So the old version was the parking garage here, and you can see there's more of that parking garage was basically facing 2nd Street. And then on the updated version, you can see how we added 2 residential units there. So, you know, to line that parking garage more with an activated space. So 2 of the, you had a question before where the below market unit would be located. So here you can see these 2 units are the very low income units. So they're on the 2nd floor. And then if you go maybe next, hopefully we have a plan there. No, we don't. But on the 4th floor, and I can show you later on another floor plan, the other middle income unit is on the 4th floor. So these are just renderings showing the level of activations at the ground floor level. So this is the view that you saw before from 2nd Street. And then down here you see a more aerial view. So you see this little plaza situation with a large entry and with these louvers there on a corner to give depth to the facade. And there will be an art installation that we will coordinate with the art commission. And then on the left-hand side, you can see these 2 commercial spaces that will have outdoor seating and will be accessible along here. Yeah, so next. We just added this slide because there was a concern with the balcony at the DRC. They were voicing concern whether the balcony is quote looming or is overlapping the public right of way, and we just added this to point out that the whole building is actually set back by 10 feet from the back of the sidewalk. And there's planting there. And then even within the facade where the balcony occurs, it occurs in an area of facade that is set back a further 2.5 feet. So the balcony is really just only protruding like 3 feet out from the main facade plane, and that is still set back 7 feet from the back of the sidewalk here. Next. Yeah, so we have looked at a side drainage option already. So if you go next, I mean, I think there's nothing to add. The only thing is that actually we were able to fit 4 parking spaces here in the front, and we have 1. So in terms of parking spaces, we actually believe that this is also equal to the other option. And anyways, this option was preferred, I think, by everybody. And then next. So if you go next, we can just scroll. Oh, this was just maybe for your information. This is an area because there is this number of excavation, which seems very high on the face of it when you hear, oh, there's 2,600 cubic yard of excavation. This is actually just showing you that there is no excavation happening in the front of the site. And we, in fact, tried to locate the building within the site with as little of interference with the current condition as possible. But you can see how the topography slopes to the back. And as we go back and we are establishing this podium for this parking here, there is this excavation incurring there on the back.
That's 10 minutes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind wrapping up your presentation?
Yeah, I think we're through with our
wrapped?
presentation. We're wrapped perfectly on time, but we're here for any, if you have any questions.
Questions? Okay, thank you. So yeah, questions for the applicant team. We'll start with Commissioner DeGiorgio.
Hi there. Thanks for the presentation. So I want to clarify on the stormwater options 1 and 2. Did I hear you say that you've managed to make the parking spaces neutral to the options? That is, they're the same number of parking spaces for each option? Or did I misunderstand?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So option 1 is the option that you're presenting.
Yes.
preferred
Monica, can you help me? There was confusion with the option numbers. I
Yes,
think.
option 1 is the applicant's preferred option, the city engineer's preferred option, and the DRC's preferred option.
Perfect. Commissioner DeGiorgio, did you have any other
No,
questions?
that's great.
Okay, Commissioner Mason, did you have any?
Yes, I had mentioned it earlier. Could you walk through the location of the handicap accessible parking spaces and address any concerns about the reduction in the drive aisle width as it pertains to handicap accessible vans?
Oh, for sure. If we could go back maybe to a first floor plan where, if you could just keep, yes, there we can see. So our handicap parking spaces, they are located on the ground floor over here. Oops. Over here. So we have here. So we have a van accessible here and a regular here, and then we have 2 here on the other side, and the users would then walk over here, and then they have direct access to the lobby here. They go right in, and they are in the lobby, and there's an elevator, and then they can go up. We don't see that there is, we don't think there's any concerns with the 24. I mean, 24 is actually in a lot of cities, that is the standard width. But even here is, you can see that it's really widening up where the actually ADA occurs is even wider here. And because, we have this kind of weird geometry, and the bottleneck really occurs here, whereas here it's opening up further.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other clarifying questions for the applicant team? Commissioner Deming?
For the below market rate units, first sort of question, it was 3 2-bedrooms, no 3-bedroom. And I mean, bereft not to ask, like, why not having a 3-bedroom below market rate unit?
I mean, the site, this is a very, it's a very tight site, and to make all the floor plans work is quite a difficult task. And then, of course, there are the pressures for the applicant also to make the project financially pencil. And he had basically, we have the top floor is reserved for larger units, more for families. But these are also the units that yield a higher, return for the project. So I think it was just very hard to incorporate that within the floor plan. So that's why he's asking for a concession here. And I maybe want to remark, this is not unusual that this concession is granted. We actually referencing another project here in Lafayette that also was working under similar pressures, and they asked for that concession, and it was granted.
I mean,
It's also, I mean, may I add to it? I mean, in that project size, you have, I mean, it's not that, how can I say that there is, I mean, we only have 30 units, and we're providing 3 2-bedroom units. So, I mean, they're pretty standard units. I mean, it's not that we are providing 3 2 studios and 1 bedroom or so. I mean, they're kind of in the center of the program that you would typically provide for units.
Well, that's actually my follow-up point, is that 2 out of the 3 units are at a certain point in my life being easily accessible to the parking space might have been a, plus. 2 of them being located on the parking level, and in fact, the only residential units on the parking level. I was wondering if you could speak to that and why they weren't more dispersed throughout the building.
I mean, there was not really, I mean, we added these units also with the intent to activate that floor. The space there was more constricted in terms of the width, and so that space really offered itself up to use for the below market unit, because they are smaller than the market rate unit, which is also normal and I think understandable. So I think it was really just that reason to find the best use for that space, and they just offer themselves up. But they're nicely designed units. I mean, they're just more value driven in size, but they're perfectly fine units, and they're on the floor. I mean, they are with a parking level, but they will not be impacted by the parking in any way. I mean, they will have the acoustical isolation, and they will be close to amenities. So I think they're fully functional, perfectly fine units.
So if they wouldn't be impacted, why would not one there and then one other located throughout the building?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the only reason for that would be that it would be more difficult in that particular location to fit a market rate, because there's not the width. I mean, that's really just the only reason, that sometimes with these very tight sites, to lay out a floor plan is a bit like a chess game, and that's where they worked out. I mean, I mean, they're not at a more disadvantaged side. I mean, they're lower in the building, but we have another one that's on the 4th floor that is higher up. So
Okay,
Just one
thank
more.
you,
tiny-
Commissioner. Yeah, that's fine.
Just a
Commissioner
tiny,
Giorgio.
tiny follow-up question. The trash unit that's on, I think, level 1, the trash area, would be right below those. And so is there going to be an exterior door? How does that work? Is that like basically roll in, roll out area so it'd be to the street level on
That's-
the 2nd Street? Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Commissioner Mason?
Another quick follow-up to, 'cause I have the same concern as Commissioner Demi has. And we always, when I was doing this, we always derisively called those crypt units. Crypt units. So, when you see them, the natural reaction is, well, they're the less desirable. But the fact that they're for the very low income means that I'm okay with those.
Did you have a question?
No, I'm just adding to the same concern I had with putting those there, because that's routinely where, instead of distributing them through the building, you routinely tuck them in adjacent to the parking, in the parking with, under the podium.
Okay. Let's focus on any questions, and then when we can bring anything to discussion after public comment. Are there any other questions for the applicant, Commissioner Labange?
Thank you for the presentation. Regarding the concession on the 3-bedroom, this is the one thing I'm really struggling with. Because my understanding, well, I would ask you to give me your understanding, because maybe you understand it better. Because, well, I'll tell you what I think and then you correct me. It's an affordability question. Okay, so that tells me the affordability between a 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom is the difference between this project going forward or not. And And my gut is that's not true. So I guess what I would like to implore on you and whoever the applicant, final applicant is figure out a way to put a 3-bedroom below market. It's important for what the city's trying to do. It might not yield quite as much. I know, because I'm in the development world, that you guys have already put together a pro forma. So you have some dollar amounts that you've established for each room. So I probably could ask you, and I will, what's the difference in price you would get between a below market 2-bedroom and a below market 3-bedroom? And if you're willing to answer that, I would say, is that really the difference between you doing the deal and not doing the deal?
So this is, I mean, I think this is ultimately a question to our client, because he's really the applicant, and he, you know, is the holder of the financials. So I think what we could do, we'll bring that comment back to him, and you know, we'll respond to that accordingly.
Okay, yeah, I would imagine that the city council will really want to know that. So I think it would do you best, and it would do the best for the community at large to understand that, because this is a state law that we're dealing with, and it's predicated on the idea that you need that. And that's actually a local one, I think, that you're asking to be a concession on. So it's a Lafayette one.
Sure.
So appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, no, understood. We'll
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, there is a raised hand, Nikhil, who I believe is the applicant that the presenter, the architect this evening spoke to. So with your permission,
Great.
I'll allow him to speak, and I believe he will address your questions.
Thank you.
Nikhil Guest on Zoom, you're enabled to speak, but you're muted. And now you're unmuted.
Okay. Hi, Commissioner. Sorry, I couldn't be there. I'm actually overseas in India.
You're very loud. So we'll try to adjust it here, but
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
adjusted here.
okay.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
So thank you for this session. Sorry, I couldn't be there. I'm going to try to answer the question about the affordable units. We are permitted to build an affordable unit which is 20 or 30% smaller than the market rate units, which is a practice across cities. The trouble we run into is stacking these units one above the other. So it's impossible for us to build a 3-bedroom unit which stacks below the other 3-bedroom units, but have it be 30% smaller. So we default to having build a full-size unit, which obviously has a much greater impact than having a smaller unit, which is why we would like to have 3 2-bedrooms. We have some smaller 2-bedroom units, which is where we have on the 4th floor. So those are the 2 bedrooms which are in the 900 to 1,000 square foot. I forget the exact square footage. And then we were able to put in 2 other 2 bedrooms, which are again in the 900 to 1,000 square foot size. These are not super compact 2 bedrooms. These are good sized 2 bedrooms. But finding a 3-bedroom which would stack along with the other ones was impossible for us to do. Nothing's impossible, but it was really hard to kind of figure out a solution which is not disruptive or bad for the other ones. So just from a constructability standpoint, it's not just the revenue loss for going from 2-bedroom to 3-bedroom, but it's the constructability and the impact on the entire stack that we are trying to deal with. Hopefully that explains why we are asking for the concession that we're asking for. And to Monica, I think Monica already touched upon this, we are entitled to 1 concession. So we were like, what should we use it for? Should we use it to waive the art requirement, which is another cost to the project, or should we use it here? And we determined that the constructability of not being able to stack 3 bedrooms was a bigger problem for the project. So that we're choosing to use it here. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm happy to kind of answer anything else you may have about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. I'll just ask Commissioner Deming, who asked the question, did that answer what you were hoping to answer?
It kind of does. The problem is I need my follow-up with staff essentially of because he said, 23rd, I understand what market practice is. I understand market practice to stuff them next to the parking lot, but I'd like to know what's our actual standards. And that's, I think, would then lead to more follow-up is the problem.
Okay, well, I think for now we have,
Yeah.
you're good, yeah, with the applicant's response, and then we can follow up with staff during discussion. Commissioner Labange, I see your light on.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would, it sounds like you're trying to decide which concession to use, which I understand. I would just ask that you guys really take a deep look because I think it's more important to the city to have more inclusive family size housing than art. That's my opinion. But if I were on the city council, I would be leaning that way. And they're going to be the ultimate deciders of that. So just, I would come prepared. And if there's another concession you could consider, I would ask that you consider that. That's one more family that will have a chance to live in Lafayette than whether there's art or there or not. So thank you for calling in and answering that. Appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant's team? Okay, thank you. We will go ahead and open it to public comment. So now's an opportunity, if you would like to provide comment on tonight's item, kindly fill out a speaker slip. And if you are online, please be prepared to raise your hand. We'll start with speakers in the room. Are there any speakers for tonight's item?
I have 3 speaker slips for the next item on the agenda. Are there any speakers in the room for this item? No speakers in the room for this item. Anyone online, please go ahead and raise your hand using the feature in Zoom if you would like to comment on this item. Seeing none.
Okay, now is when the applicant's team would get a chance for a rebuttal. Is there anything additional you'd like to add? Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll close the public comment portion. We'll bring it to the commission for discussion. So let me pull back up our agenda. So again, our charge, right, is we're holding the meeting, review the proposal, and then potentially make a recommendation to city council. So with that in mind, I know Commissioner Deming, you're needing to leave. I know you had a clarifying question you would like to ask staff. Do you mind asking it before you depart?
The question was simply the standard that is applied for a unit to count as a below market rate unit. Is there a percentage of square footage difference? Is there a location permissibility, stacking them all on the second floor there in the parking zone? What is the actual requirements that must be met in order for it to qualify?
Our local inclusionary ordinance, if you could increase the volume on my mic, thanks, requires percentages of below market rate units, which are set forth. It recognizes that below market rate units can have a reduced square footage, does not stipulate what that is. We have used 80% previously as the benchmark because, twice the size for market rate versus a below market rate does not seem reasonable, but 80% of a market rate unit seems reasonable. Similarly, the fit and finish, the expectation and the requirement is not marble or granite countertops. They could be nice laminate. So the appliances don't need to be high end. They can be good appliances. So there are no prescribed standards with respect to those features. We've used 80% as the square footage threshold, but the requirements are that they be the same mix. So if it's 30% 1 bedroom, 30% 2 bedroom, and 40%, the BMR units would follow that percentage mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, and that the units would be distributed throughout the project and not segregated or congregated in one generally less desirable location or one building, which is somehow different than the rest. The intention is that they look and feel externally by the passerby just like any other unit.
Okay, and I did not bring this up previously, and I'm assuming it didn't come up in staff report, so it's not applicable. This is an awfully large building that's sitting below the density for its plot. Is there any sort of minimum density that must be met? And I'm assuming they're above it. This is just a clarifying question. 'Cause it's just a really big building and only so many units. I just wanted to double check.
I think I heard you say that it's sitting below the density
I
that
thought that's what was
permitted.
below the maximum density. Yes. I just wanted to check, just as more of a clarifying question, like is there a minimum floor density? Especially for a building of like going to be twice the height that it's otherwise, they got to see.
Yes,
Big
I think
building.
I would agree with you that it's surprising that it's twice the number of stories permissible,
Yeah.
yet incrementally bigger than what
But
is.
for a building of its size, I'm assuming there's not like you must have so much density.
Correct. They are, the only standard under minimum density is 31 dwelling units per acre, which I believe this meets or exceeds. What's the density? So I'm asking.
There's a maximum, which is understandable. You don't want people being packed in as well. This is sort of almost the reverse of it, of like, it's essentially a large number of high-end units, which from a financial perspective in today's market, I understand why investors will find that attractive.
Yep.
But I was checking to see if there were any particular local
Local,
requirements to say like, maybe we can get a few more units out of this.
Correct.
space, But
so yes, to your question, this is a housing opportunity site. In the housing element, it is required to have at least 88% of the permissible maximum density. Thus, in the 35 dwelling unit per density zone, that would be 31 units per acre.
got it.
I'm
Okay.
asking the project planner, what is the proposed project density before density bonus? Thank you.
Okay. Anyone want to start? I will reserve mine for the end. My thoughts.
I'll go. At first I thought it was too big, but I've changed my mind. I did go back and look at the development just to the west of it. That's already expired, so it's probably not going to come as that development, but we did that back in a long time ago. And it was in the realm.
I'm just personally having a hard time hearing, so if commissioners can just really eat the microphone.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is.
No, we're having difficulties regulating the gain on the mics relative to the output volume in the speakers. And so this is actually a very good gain on my microphone, and we'll see how it is on yours.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I'd gotten past that point. In terms of the below market on the second level, I actually like how those were done. I think we'd seen one in the past, or when this first came up years ago, where there was like, I can't remember if this is an actual deal or a suggestion of why it wouldn't work, where there was like a back entrance for a certain, or that was in New York. I can't remember, but it was clearly like, that's bad. This doesn't seem bad to me. It seems reasonable for a smaller unit. I was a little concerned with the one that there's one of the units, I think on the north side, the head of the bed is right next to a parking spot. And I just hope that when that person's laying down and the car pulls in, that there's really thick insulation there. So my only thing at the end of the day, I clearly expressed it, was trying to hold that 1/3 3-bedroom below market. And I part of wanting to say it here was to put them on so they think about it, but also for the city council, because I think that the city needs that. So other than that, I'm good and I'm ready to vote.
Thank you. Commissioner DeGiorgio?
thank you for the staff report. I echo previous commissioner comments that I would like to see, or say it might benefit the city council to see a graphic that would show the relative height to both Merrill Gardens as well as the, at the and Orchard Hill Court, as one basically will come out of the rear of this development and head up the hill. There are 2-story buildings on the top of that hill, and it'd be interesting for the city council to be able to get a sense of how high this development is relative to the other buildings around it. But other than that, I don't really have any concerns that need to be addressed.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason?
I can support this project. One thing I would advise is in this town, people show up at the last minute, so you'll probably have more attendance at the city council. A lot of this, what we're doing is non-discretionary, which we realize, but the general public does not. So the more information you can provide them, the easier it is going to be. They may not like the information, but at least that way they can say that, hey, this is how tall it is relative to the places next door. This is, this is why we did this. At the end of the day, it's the best you can do, but the more information you throw out there, the less likely you're going to have is people saying, you didn't tell us this. So good luck to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with a couple pros. I do appreciate that the applicant's team has taken the feedback at previous meetings and incorporated it into the project. I do think this is the best iteration of the project. I do appreciate engaging the east end of town. I know that's where the parcel just happens to be, but I do think that's great. We need more in the east end. I do acknowledge that the project does exceed many of the objective design standards for the downtown, for the point system. I acknowledge that, and public art oftentimes is a concession that's requested. However, and I will also say I can make the findings, and I do understand that we will be approving this project. However, there's a couple concerns I do have. I did not appreciate the statement that, well, we're entitled to a concession, so we tried to figure out which one to use. I understand that. I understand how the law works. I understand how waivers and concessions work. I did not appreciate that comment. It felt like, oh, we're entitled to it, so we're just going to try to find a way to use it. When I do agree with my fellow commissioners that families in Lafayette, there's a lot that could use a 3-bedroom unit. So just food for thought. I also feel, and this is maybe a comment more for staff, that if an applicant is going to be providing renderings, it needs to represent the project. When you're showing the corner view from aerial or from the street, and it's showing a Rolly Hill Park to the west with grass, that doesn't exist. Unless that's part of the project, I don't think that should be allowed to be on a rendering depicting the project that then the community is looking at. The plants and the overhangs, unless those plants are included in the project on the balconies, I don't think those should be allowed. So I'm not sure if they are or if they're not. I'm guessing they're not included. Something to think about. And I also agree, Commissioner Labange and then Commissioner DeGiorgio mentioned this. We saw a project recently, and it was as simple as creating the massing and dropping it into Google Earth to show what that particular project looks like in the context. That's a very simple, very cheap way of still presenting the community with a realistic representation of what the project is. So I'm hoping that maybe staff, that could be something that's required. I don't think it's the applicant's fault that that wasn't presented. if no one's ever asked for it. So hopefully that's something that could be shared in the future. I also question the reasoning for no story poles. I do acknowledge that 6 stories is very tall for story poles. But saying it's because there's tenants, yeah, in one little portion of the site, there is a building, but I don't know. That didn't really, I just thought that was interesting. So I can make the findings. I do understand our role on this project. Half of what I just said, that was also for city council's benefit, like my fellow commissioners. I will entertain a motion if anyone is interested in making one.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we adopt resolution 202602, recommending that the city council approve the project subject to the conditions of the approvals attached as Exhibit A.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
All opposed? And I will note, just for staff for the minutes, Commissioner Deming has left the hearing, so Commissioner Deming did not vote. So it's 4 people voting, all 4 ayes.
Correct. Commissioner Deming left about 8:10, I believe. So,
Thank you.
yes, 4-0, and we'll note the Commissioner Deming's absence.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
good luck at city council.
Thank you.
Okay, let me go back to the agenda. And also, I guess if the applicant is still online, feel free to drop because the item is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you want to stay on.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 6B, just give me one sec. HDP 33-25, DR 24-25, LLR 05-25, GR 10-25, TP 69-25 Collins, owner in the R40 zoning. I'll look to staff for a presentation. Monica?
Thank you. So this is a hillside development permit request, phase 1. Phase 1 hillside development permit reviewed, it's reviewed by the planning commission, to determine the most appropriate building site and massing to minimize site disturbance, reduce off-site visibility, maintain neighborhood context. And the phase 2 hillside development permit reviewed by the design review commission, and they review it for architectural materials and colors, landscaping, lighting, final design, and detailed project impacts. Two vacant hillside parcels created through a minor subdivision. The parcel remains undeveloped. Phase 1 during 2011 and 2014, phase 1 HDP applications were submitted for 2 5,000 square foot homes. And on March 17, 2014, the Planning Commission approved the phase 1 HDP and lot line revision with conditions requiring reduced massing and size minimum 20% reduction. And then on 2015 through 2018, a phase 2 application was submitted for a 6,050 square foot residence. And on June 18, 2018, Planning Commission approved the project. That project included a 3,000 cubic yard cut, 500 cubic yard fill, and removal of 9 protected trees. No construction has occurred to date. And in 2015 to 2018, a separate application was submitted for a 6,592 square foot residence. On August 6, 2018, the Planning Commission denied the project. And in October 22nd, 2018, the City Council upheld the denial. And then in 2021, a new application was received and filed by the subsequent owner, and it was deemed incomplete. And then now in 2025, the application, which is the current application, was received for a new Phase 1 HDP application filed by the current property owner. This proposal differs in siding, massing, height, and grading quantities and tree removal. The bottom left it shows the site. The site is unaddressed, is 7.93 acres and is located in the R40 zoning district. And on to the left of the site is 3991 Happy Valley Road. It's 4.71 acres, and it's also in the R40 zoning district. So parcel A, which is the parcel to the west, it has an existing area of 205,262 square feet. And the project proposes a lot line adjustment, which would increase that area to 232,052 square feet. And the line, if you look on the right side of the screen, the red line is the line to propose to be removed, and the blue line is the green line is the new adjusted line. And regarding parcel B, once if the lot line revision is removed, the existing square foot area is 345,368, and the new area would be 318,578 square feet. So for the development, the project proposes to construct a 6,160 square feet, two-story, single-family residence on parcel B. The maximum height proposed is 22 feet 4 inches. The site is proposed to be located on a natural bench in the lower central portion of the site. The development is positioned outside the Class 2 ridgeline setback. The project is designed to minimize visibility and reduce and respond to the natural topography. The new driveway access proposed is from Happy Valley Road with stepped retaining walls. And on the left of the parcel was the previous proposed single-family home, which was never constructed. The site, here's the site plan. The front setbacks are, the front setback is 65 feet. The minimum required is 25 feet. The left setback is 20 feet. And the right setback is 27 feet, and the minimum required is 20 feet. The required aggregate side yard is 40 feet minimum, and the applicant proposes 47. And regarding parking spaces, the applicant is proposing 6 spaces, and the requirement is 2. And here's the closest property is to the proposed single-family home is is roughly 240 feet away. Um, These are the sections. The top section, which is the section through the garage, illustrates how the residents transition from the main living level to the garage level. The garage is set lower into the hillside, which helps reduce the perceived mass from the street. The main living spaces are supported on a cross-based foundation, allowing the home to follow the natural grade rather than requiring a large flat pad. The lower section illustrates how the home is designed to follow the natural slope of the site rather than creating a large flat pad. The need for excessive grading and helps the building step into the hillside. This approach minimizes visual prominence and maintains the natural landform. On the top is the south elevation. The south elevation presents a predominantly horizontal profile that steps with the natural slope of the site, minimizing vertical exposure. The maximum height of the structure is 22 feet 4 inches. Changes in materials, recesses, and step roof lines help reduce the perceived bulk. The north elevation faces the uphill side of the property, appears lower in scale due to the building's partial embedment into the hillside. The massing is articulated through material changes and modest window openings. On the east elevation demonstrates how the residence is integrated into the steep downslope condition with portions of the lower level embedded into the hillside to reduce vertical exposure. The design maintains a strong horizontal emphasis through flat roof lines, sunshades, and articulated wall panels. On the west elevation, the residence steps down with the natural slope of the site, with the garage level partially embedded into the hillside to reduce the overall perceived height. The design emphasizes horizontal roof lines and incorporates material changes, including vertical wood siding, smooth stucco, and stone accents to break up the facade and minimize visual bulk. Large sliding glass doors and recessed elements provide articulation while maintaining a low profile that remains consistent with the hillside setting. In terms of site design and the constraints analysis, the 7.93 acre site is a steep hillside parcel with significant slope constraints and protected trees, particularly toward the upper ridgeline area, which remains undisturbed. The proposed residence is strategically sited on an existing lower natural bench to avoid steep slopes and the Class 2 ridgeline setback, while minimizing grading and visual prominence. Driveway access follows the natural contours, and tree removal is limited to the 10 protected walnut trees within the building and driveway footprint, allowing the majority of the parcel to remain in its natural condition. A geotechnical report was submitted for the site. The report confirms the site is geotechnically suitable for development provided recommendations are incorporated. Recommends pier and footing foundations step to follow the natural slope, provides guidance on retaining walls, drainage, and sub-drain systems, addresses grading practices to minimize settlement and slope instability, requires compliance with report recommendation at time of grading and building permit issuance. Our city engineer has reviewed the geotechnical report and noted that it was very thorough and doesn't believe that it needs to be peer reviewed. A hydrology and hydraulics report was also conducted. The hydrology and hydraulics report analyzed 10-year storm event conditions, compare pre-development and post-development peak runoff, includes proposed on-site detention and metering systems to control discharge and designed to ensure post-development flows do not exceed pre-development levels. And then, so there were two reports submitted. One was for the east drainage area and one was for the west drainage area. Regarding the east drainage area, it was modeled after a 6,000 square foot residence. And the tributary drainage areas is 83,600 square feet. The pre-development flow is 2.26 cubic feet per second, and the post-development flow is 1.94 cubic feet per second. And the detention system is 90 LF of 21-inch storm drain pipe. And then for the west drainage area, it was modeled for a 6,000 square foot residence plus 5,600 square feet driveway paving. The tributary drainage area is 68,800 square feet. The pre-development flow is 1.23 cubic foot per second. Post-development flow increased subject to control. Detention system 130 LF of 21-inch storm drain pipe. The city engineer has reviewed the hydrology and hydraulics reports and recommended evaluating bioretention basin attenuation within the hydrology model. And he also said that the reports need to reflect the most current plans. The current project proposes a 6,160 square foot residence, so it does exceed what the east drainage report area model. And so the applicant is aware that after this meeting, the Planning Commission and the public might be requesting some design changes and would like to update the report based on any recommended design changes. And the engineer also didn't think that this report needed to be peer reviewed. The project was also referred to outside departments and other agencies. In addition to the comments the city engineer stated earlier, the city engineer also requested clarification of bioretention basin design and driveway improvements, and the applicant has been in contact with the engineer regarding these, providing clarification. The fire district also provided comments, and the sanitary district as well. The project was noticed to surrounding neighbors within a 300 feet buffer, and notices were posted near the site 10 days in advance of the meeting. 3 neighbors sent in letters in opposition to the project. Here are the findings required for the requested entitlements. The Planning Commission determines whether the required findings can be made. Staff has included the findings in the resolution. Therefore, based on the record as a whole, staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt Planning Commission Resolution 2026-03, approving the project subject to conditions. And this concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask a couple questions and open to the commissioners for other questions. You noted that, actually, can you go back to that you were just flipping through? I want to see the distance to the closest home. Yeah, that image. So from the black box being the project proposed potential home to 4001, what is that distance?
240 feet.
So if that's 240 feet to the closest neighbor, I assume the mailings went out based on the property boundary of 300 feet. So do you know how many mailers did go out?
I would have to check the files for an exact count.
Yeah, well, if you don't mind, just maybe during during the applicant's presentation.
Okay.
Because I'm just curious, these are large lots, and if we
Mhm.
did already receive 3 letters opposing the project, I'm just curious how many notices went out. And then do you mind going to the image that the title is Site Design and Constraints slide? Yes, this one's fine, or we could just use this one instead. Actually, sorry, do you mind going to the site design and constraints? I'll make it easier. Okay, so I know we're, part of the request is a lot line
Adjustment.
revision.
Yeah, okay.
So when we see images like this, is this the proposed lot line or the existing?
This one is the existing.
Okay, because I guess maybe I'm just having a hard time looking at it. I'm having a hard time envisioning the proposed building with what we're making a motion on tonight, which
Mhm.
includes a lot line revision as well as massing and siding, right? So in the future, or if the applicant's team is going to be prepared to pull up a slide that could show the proposed location for the potential housing site with the correct lot line, I think it's easier as a planning commissioner to envision that. Any clarifying questions?
Yeah.
From commissioners? Commissioner DeGiorgio?
I have several actually. So, I just want to make, because there's 2 APNs. One ends in 03, which is the westernmost parcel, and then there's the one ending in 04, which is the current one. So my understanding was that the previous application on 04, right,
Mhm.
one we're considering,
Yes.
was denied, right?
That's correct.
So I just want to clarify that, and I think we'll get her public comments about this or reflecting the public comment letter. There are no existing conditions affecting this particular parcel. Is that the correct way to think about it if the previous projects were denied?
Yes, this is a new application.
Okay. Then the next question I have has to do with the notices. And I know you're going to check on that, but I was curious because the public comments came in on November 23rd. They were dated November 23rd. And if I was curious about that timing, why was public writing in on November if it's only been recently noticed?
The project was previously noticed before, and then the item was continued.
Okay.
Because the applicant needed to submit more materials for the lot line revision.
But that's what I couldn't find it, but that's what I suspected. But so was this round also noticed?
Yes,
Okay. I'll hold off on drainage. The parcel A that was approved back in 2018.
that's correct.
So has that expired? I mean,
Yes,
okay, so that will have to come back through another process.
yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned 3 letters from the public. I only saw 2 in the packet.
One was just sent today, and I forwarded it to the commission as soon as it was sent.
Okay, thank you. I'll look for that then.
And maybe I can ask staff whenever it's appropriate, if you can please provide a summary of that, just to make sure
Okay.
that in case it was missed.
Understood.
Yeah, thanks.
19 people, 19 addresses, property owners were on the mailing list and were sent the notice of public hearing, and the area was posted physically in the vicinity of the project.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Mason.
You finished?
Yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
I just have 2 questions. One is, could you pull up the east and west elevation? I'm having trouble figuring out how you got the 22-foot 4-inch maximum elevation. And could you walk us through that?
Um, should I pull up
Yeah,
the plans
the
instead?
slide that showed the east and west
Oh, east
elevation.
and west.
I've got that as sheet 7 and, okay. Can you walk me through that, how you came up with the 22-foot 4-inch elevation? Because I don't see it anywhere there on either of those.
If you could zoom into the lower right where it actually is dimensioned, that would help inform the discussion, I think.
Okay.
Or just bring up the project plans, which should show it.
Specifically, what I was asking about is on the, oh, sorry. What I was specifically asking about is on the east elevation, your dimensions are cut off. But from your staff report, it looks like garage level is above the crawl space at the so the bottom left that's cut off. Others, the other left. You could maybe shrink that. Because you see that garage level looks like it's above the crawl space, which would actually make that building taller. And that's where I was confused.
Yeah, the garage is sort of cut into the hill.
But whereas going from the east elevation, it doesn't look like the garage is the lowest portion
Yeah.
of the residence. And we have to take the total height from the lowest point, not
Mhm.
the way everybody else does it. So one is if staff could, if you could check that
Mhm.
and clarify it. The second thing is I was curious about the recommendation that the drainage report doesn't need to be peer reviewed. One is, I remember from last time, there was a lot of concern from the downhill neighbors about water runoff. And just looking at your assessment of the report, the first obvious question that comes to my mind is you're still dealing with all the water coming off the hill, and looking at the sections and the retaining walls, it's basically you're creating a dam that all the water has to run around. And you could have the same amount of water, but directed in different locations in different outfalls. And given how much attention this got last time, I was surprised that we didn't have a peer review recommended to make sure this is as bulletproof as possible.
So the conclusion of the report was that the post-development peak runoff would actually be reduced by approximately 15% due to the proposed improvements. And that's for the east drainage area. But the project applicant would still need to update this study to reflect its design iteration. The applicant anticipates receiving feedback and possibly having to reduce the size of the property, and that would change the impermeable and permeable surfaces, which would change the design of the drainage, and the runoff calculations would change because of that. And then
Yeah, well, see, I'm not worried about the drainage onto the house, but if you look at, again, the west elevation, concern is all the water coming down the hill. because I've got a terrace, two retaining walls there, which is essentially block the water and
Mhm.
direct it around the house. And that's the concern, not the
Mhm.
water that's hitting the roof. That'll all be collected, or the drive, that'll all be collected and disposed of. It's just that you've got 6, 7 acres above.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
That's it.
Okay, any other clarifying questions for staff? Okay, we'll welcome the applicant team. You have 10 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Edward Patmont. Been a licensed architect since 1983. Actually retired officially this year. I've been a long time architect and builder. Started my company in 1989, Hillside Homes Group. That's basically all I've done. It's kind of ironic for me to be in city of Lafayette because I've never done a home in Lafayette. I've done many in Orinda, city of Walnut Creek, where I lived for many years, Alamo, and of course, earlier in my career, Oakland, Berkeley Hills. So I know about hillsides. I know how to build them. It's all pier and grade beam. And so I came into this project a little late. There's a lot of history. We're going to hear from the neighbors. Some of them I met trying to meet. So this is 2 lots that have been around for a long time. The owner approached me to try to reset this, and so we designed a modern home, a low profile home. You know, that you've seen 2 designs, one from the other lot, which Mr. Patel is here tonight. You need to speak with him. That was approved. The one that was done on this lot was not approved. This is an entirely different house. It's a actually it's a balanced cut and fill, which is quite interesting. So in other words, as much cut as there is fill. Probably there'll be some off haul because just the way it goes, there's drain rock that you have to put in, but that's the idea, is to set this thing into the hill. So when I first got involved with this, I was quite struck with not how easy it was, but how clear it was where this house should be put. And that's where it is. It's not too close to the street, and it's certainly not way up the hill, which the view would be amazing. But that's not what's being proposed. These are 2 homes with a shared driveway, which has already been approved, and the lot line adjustment has already been approved, although expired, I guess. But I want to stress a couple of things. One is the engineering will obviously be state-of-the-art. Homes that I've built don't fall down the hill. Maybe they have some leak issues, which is always a challenge, you know, with modern architecture. But as far as structural stability, in my 40 years doing this, and this lot is about as good as it gets geologically. And it really is. That's a sandstone mound up there. Now, there is some colluvium down below, which is going to be excavated and redone and keyed in, and all the drainage. And Commissioner Mason, you mentioned about the drainage on the retaining walls. I mean, retaining walls are including a subdrain, and that's all routed into a system that terminates at the bottom with a bioretention structure in this case. The east lot, the west lot, all of that drainage that now goes down to the street will be diverted into a storm drain system that goes to Upper Happy Valley. So the net result when both of these houses are built is that the hydrology, the water coming off that hill will be greatly reduced, not by 15%, by over 50%. I mean, enormous, 90% probably. So that is a real benefit of this site. As I said, geologically, we're drilling into the piers. We've got sandstone. It couldn't be any better from my perspective. And I built on some pretty marginal sites, you know, because you get what you get. This isn't one of them. We're taking great pains to reduce the massing. Again, on that height, it is 22 feet from the bottom of the garage to the top of the roof. Now, on the other side, I guess on the east side, what you were picking up, that's the deck. So there's the house and then there's the deck. Yes, the deck does involve a skirt wall. And we've taken pains to cantilever the structure. So there's a little shadowing going on. Again, lots of landscaping. If you've just taken a quick glance at the landscaping plan, a woman I've worked with for many years, she's amazing. I mean, this will be a showcase in landscaping, and that's what it should be. You know, coming on Happy Valley Road, looking up, glancing at this site, the homes will be set back. Landscaping is what you're going to see. We're taking out a bunch of old walnuts that are called dead, leaving all the oak trees. Yeah, that's about it. Be happy to answer your questions, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. I will ask any of the commissioners if there's questions. Commissioner Mason, did your question get answered?
Thank you for answering my questions. For the record, I have no problems with the house. I have no problems with your ability to build a house safely structured on a hill. The only concern I had was the drainage, and you answered that. So thank you. And I do appreciate you proactively addressing the questions rather than waiting for you to be asked again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeGiorgio?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I walked this site this afternoon, this morning, I mean, and I was just curious about the angle the house is arranged, because the one corner, that would be the west, I'd say it would be the part where the pool is, right?
Right.
It's really right up against where the hill really starts to go up, where on the grading plan, it's the 50% level and higher, right? And earlier, I was going to follow up on Mr. Mason's comments. The retaining wall, is that going to be raised how far, like a foot above the slope, you know, or how high were you planning to do that to keep mud or water from flowing into the house?
Right. I think they call that freeboard. Engineers call that freeboard. Different sites require, like if you were on a site that had a lot of suspect, you know, debris flows, you would want that up. I've done them 2.5, 3 feet. This one that's a sandstone mass up there behind the retaining wall. So I don't anticipate, there's normally a V ditch and then probably 6 inches above. And if anything was to come over that, yeah, it would have to be cleaned up. But I think it's you know, and this again is an engineering question, but I just don't think it's probable to be a major concern.
Okay. And then I was curious about your comment saying that some of the water is going to be diverted to Upper Happy Valley drainage system. Right. And from my recollection, your site is below Upper Happy Valley Road.
Right.
So how is that water going to get there?
Yeah, I actually received that information from the city engineer, who reminded me, because I wasn't, you know, this is phase 1 of phase 2, and then we have engineering after that. So I really wasn't focusing on that until he mentioned it. And I have the plan here that Yeah, it ducts out to Upper Happy Valley. So all of that water will be in a city storm drain.
Mhm.
Now, the interesting thing, and I'm sure some of the neighbors will comment on this. There's a storm drain inlet. It's a catch basin right below our site.
Mhm.
And that catch basin is a pipe that goes under the street and apparently ends at one of the properties. In other words, it goes nowhere. So we don't want any more water on that. And we won't, because the bioretention facility that we put on our property will address that in a 10-year storm. You know, a 100-year storm probably will exceed that. But the design parameters generally speak to a 10-year storm, that we handle all of that water. And, but with respect to the overall site, what's really interesting is that half of that site, the water goes to Upper Happy Valley.
Okay.
So what you're left with is a fraction of what's coming down now.
Okay, I want to follow up. So the shape of the proposed driveway,
Yeah.
it angles down and basically terminates across from 4001 address,
Right.
you know, which is and I noticed that there is a storm drain there right in front of their property. But my concern was, will your plan, and I know you're going to do the engineering and all that later,
Yeah.
but are you going to be able to prevent water from running down the driveway and overflowing that storm drain into and have it go into the property at 4001?
Of course,
Okay,
of course.
right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say, we do have a request for a 5-minute break. So if that works, we'd like to take 5 minutes. When we do come back, we'll take public comment. And then the applicant will have 5 minutes to provide response to the public comment. So it's 8:55. We'll come back at 9. According to the clock up there, it's 9:02. So welcome back. We're going to go ahead and open the public comment portion. Again, reminder, this is item 6B on the agenda. I do know we have a couple speakers in the room. So I'll turn it over to staff to introduce the speakers in the room and then queue up anybody who would like to provide public comment online.
First speaker in the room is Charlie Glavin. Mr. Glavin will be followed by Tom McClintock, followed by Paul Sachs.
Thanks. Thank you, Greg, and thank you all for your time. I'm Charlie Glavin. I'm a resident at 3983 Happy Valley Road, which is across. I've been there for 25 years. We've lived across from the Hillside proposal. Knew the previous owner, Dan Koshland, so we are very aware of the history and any claims in regards to that. I myself am a CFA and an engineer, plus a member of the city's investment committee and have been an advisor to the finance committee since 2008. Since 2013, we've been coming here. So, and I've already given you a couple of submissions. So for the sake of time, I'm going to talk off and forgive me if I cite a lot of figures. It's the analyst in me, as my wife would say. I have included pictures from the packet. I'm sorry if Commissioner, can I call you Anna? Because I'm going to.
I know my last name's hard.
Yeah,
That's
thank
great.
you. I realized that in the August 2018 meeting, Commissioner Sturm, Commissioner Ellis, and yourself were very vocal about the lack of progress that had been made in the design. And that's the fundamental problem that we've seen. There has been no fundamental design, and there's continues to be incorrect statements that have been made, including, as I should notice, we did not receive any notice. I can tell you that Malcolm Fairbairn, who is the owner for the last 2 or 3 years, who's the second closest, did not receive either in November nor the current one. Malcolm could not make tonight, but he was very adamant about this is a ridiculous design, would have liked to attend. There has been, contrary to the assertion, there has been no effort to meet with the neighbors. The last meeting had been made in April 12th of 2014, at which time Gary Collins had indicated to us, including 2 of the members, 5 of which, folks, we're going to tell you whatever you want to hear, so long as we get the approval. This has been what we've been faced, the entire time, and complete disregard for the resolutions and the recommendations that have been made. I would also refute the notion that there has been no slides. Within the last decade, the Bridges and Flowers property, which is the next adjoining spur, which has very similar characteristics, did have a major issue. Anybody who has kids at Happy Valley School or along Happy Valley knows of the issue from the flooding that occurred, including the mudslide that came and protruded. In addition, for those who are familiar with the Upper Happy Valley Road, the Estate Drive, which was on similar type of piers, slid off those foundations during a irregular rainstorm. I believe that was 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I can go back and check. A couple of other things to note, that the storm drain, which is directly below the east property, is not connected to the main line. In addition to that, we have had 3 floodings from that areas, including existing sandbags because of this situation. And as I would point out within the packet, on November 24th, there was a 15-inch branch that was cut that resides on the Fairbairn side of the property line. We checked with Miranda shortly thereafter. No permits could we find, and when we approached all the members who were cutting the branches at that time, we found no supervisor or arborist on site overseeing that. This seems to be indicative of what we've encountered with the Collins and the Melcor projects over the last decade. I realize my time, is up, but I'd be free to, because we have a lot of supporting facts, including a very thick folder beforehand supporting those contentions. Thank you.
Okay, just hold on, please, because there might be questions. So thank you for the comment. If you do have binders full of information, I hope that is submitted to staff, because I do know that it takes more than 3 minutes.
Yeah, and if I could just make one mention, the 20 cent
Excuse me,
percent. Oh, sorry.
Hopefully someone will ask a question that'll allow you to share more information.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner DeGiorgio, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks for coming tonight. So regarding the storm drain that's kind of near your property, across the street,
Yes.
it's not connected. Does it extend underneath the road and then go to a drainage ditch, or do you know what happens to the
No,
water?
and in fact, the city came out in the last weekend, noticed that the drainage, even with that, has now compromised the previous patchwork. There had been a water main break, and they're going to have to redo the paving around that area because the water has been coming down, and that is to the east of the storm drain that doesn't occur. So you actually have a compromised situation in the road already, not even factoring that storm drain, which goes into Peach Ross and then comes down towards our property in Keeler. And again, because of the history, we have to retain sandbags because of the drainage that comes by. And Paul will be telling you about flooding that he has on the west side of the property.
And
Okay.
you were about to mention something. I'm curious what that was.
It's in regards to the 20%, and it's a little bit of a bait and switch, and it's not the first time that we've seen it. But at the time that in 2014, the January 17th plans, when those were made, the size of the property was 5750. And at that time, the commission made a requirement that both the overall side, not just livable space, and reduced visual impact had to be reduced by 20%. That had not been adhered for 4 years. And Anna, this is where you, Commissioner Stern, and Ellis also cited. At that time, not only did the size go up to 5873, but between the beginning of 2018 and after the commission had mentioned it, it actually went up another 12% to 6592. So it's a bait and switch. Increase it to 6592, then reduce it down, then you look like a compliant, even though the recommended amount that was put into the minutes by the commissioners back in 2014 was 4,600 square feet. I'd also point out a couple of things that I've noticed in regards to the setback. If you take a look at where the driveway is, it's not 40 feet back. It's closer to 35 feet with an elevation of about 31 feet above. That's a 40-degree slope that is going to be overhanging with all of those trees removed. So to your point, in regards to the drainage and everything, all the sites have been removed. The biggest branch that was going to block the visibility as you come up Upper Happy Valley, that 15-inch branch, has been removed. So, yes,
Does that answer your question?
that wasn't really the question. I went beyond, sorry.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Commissioner LaBonge?
Believe it or not, we've had a lot of these meetings where the two parties have not met till they got here. So I will ask you a simple
Yep.
question. Do you have time after the meeting to meet?
Gladly. And
Okay.
we've been willing to meet with the lawyers, Bill Wendt, I believe his name, and he's apologized. He says he only gets what's given to him. So we have been very amenable. In fact, Bill brokered that meeting in 2014. We asked again in 2018. We asked again in 2022. So we have, as a neighborhood, reached out.
Okay, and then hopefully you can meet. I don't know if the owner's with you, but hopefully you can meet.
Yeah, and staff also offered to have a meeting in December, but unfortunately we could not attend.
And I mean, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
you being here.
Wait, one more. Your address is 3983 Happy Valley?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Before I call the next speaker, just want to offer something to staff to think about while the next speaker is up. Would you be able to pull your records to see who received notices and confirm that 13983 is within the 300-foot radius that you noticed? And then if so, if a mailer was sent to that address. And I do not know the address of Malcolm Fairbank unless,
3972.
3972, thank you. So I've asked staff to just clarify who is included in that. Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Tim McClintock.
Hi. My name's Tim McClintock. I live at 3997 Happy Valley Road. And the way the addresses go, we're right next to 4001. So I actually thought I was closer to the house than 4001. But if she's closer, that's fine. In any case, we've been there, my wife and I have been there for 35 years. And this again seems a little bit like deja vu to me, because we were here in 2018 and a 6,000 square foot house with a lot of massing was denied. And so on this one, I'd like to concentrate more on the retaining walls that are, if you stood, for example, at the top of my driveway and look across, it's a very steep slope and it goes up quite high. And the retaining walls, according to the materials that were submitted, are anywhere from 3 feet to 16 feet in height. And there are 2 of them. And I think at the area where my driveway meets Happy Valley Road, that's the highest elevation, because that's where the parking pad is, and that's where the house, part of the house sits. And I can see that there could be potentially 2 16-foot retaining walls there. The artist's rendering of the plan doesn't show how close to the street the retaining walls start and how tall they are in any particular area. And I'm wondering, is it possible to have story poles to show how the retaining wall height goes and how close to the street that is? So that's our contention there. And I think that overall, our contention has been all along that the pad that the house can be built on is too small for a 6,000 square foot house, especially when added to it all the requirements for the fire engines to turn around and the parking and that. So that's all I have, I think.
Thank you. Let me see if there's any questions. No questions. Thank you.
The third and last speaker from in the room is Paul Sachs.
Right. My name is Paul Sachs. I'm at 3995 Happy Valley Road, directly south, behind McClintock's. We're where the water goes, hence my strong interest. But first, thank you for what you do. Good citizenship matters. Forgive me, but I have to hold things close these days. I'm going to address 2 things only: hydrology and the wall. Why am I here? Water comes downhill, I get it. We've had floods. We all know about the house sliding into the creek down the road at Toledo Court. It's a problem in Happy Valley. And the slope we're talking about, you can't tell from the pictures, but that is probably the longest, steepest slope in Lafayette. And the pad we're talking about is that tiny portion at the bottom. What's going on is that to accommodate the fire engine turnaround hammerhead driveway need, there has to be a large expansion of the pad. I laughed when I saw the staff report. You have to check a box if you're going to move more than 50 cubic yards of dirt. This is 2,400 cubic yards moved to accommodate that large hammerhead driveway, impervious service. surface. What I'm interested in is having an independent peer-reviewed hydrology report. The first report submitted in 2010 was laughed at by my hydrologist father, who said, "Son, that's just lines on a map." That same engineer now submits the current so-called hydrology report, which is arithmetic showing surface water flows. What we need is cores, samplings, something that gives us a bona fide hydrology report that tells us where the subterranean flows are and where they're going to go, dealing with all of this mammoth impervious surface. I go back to the Design Review Commission, May 29, 2018, page 23, lines 18 through 30. They went through all of the misrepresentations this developer had made, the repeated statements that will say whatever it takes to get it past the city engineer, measurements that were proved to be incorrect over and over. DRC said unanimously in those minutes that this project requires an independent peer-reviewed hydrology report. And what's changed? Land's the same, developers the same, the flows are the same. I just think they're trying to run out the clock and hoping that enough of the commission changes. And I would ask you not to be gamed that way. Second, the wall. In a nutshell, the DRC Planning Commission, City Council denied the prior proposal. Why? 20% reduction in square footage. This house is larger. 4,650 they were targeting. That's what the City Council said you had to get to. These people wouldn't, and now they're coming back with a larger number. Second,
Do you mind wrapping up because your time
Yep.
is up?
my time is up.
Well, you
The
can-
wall.
Yeah, just wrap up.
None of the proposal shows us the height of the wall, how close it is to the road. Something in there is about retaining wall. Some are 3 feet, some are 16. At one point early on, contiguous right next to Happy Valley Road was a wall about the size of that ceiling. Take a look at the one picture that's on the website of the house. The walls are larger than the house, and they're going to be looming right next to Happy Valley Road, maybe 16 feet high, maybe 2 7s, maybe 14, but there is no depiction whatever here.
Okay,
Nothing
thank
in
you.
the staff report and nothing in the proposal. There ought to be. Thank you.
Any, just 1 minute, please. Any questions for the speaker? No? Okay, we're good. Thank you. We'll look to staff, see if there's any hands raised online.
The first speaker is Gil Berkeley.
Thank you. My name is Gil Berkeley. I live at 3981 Happy Valley Road. Frankly, the prior neighbors who spoke articulated most of my concerns. If nothing else, I want to express my frustration with the process that we've been put through. We have been to countless meetings in the past several years with respect to this project. We thought we actually had something that ultimately was approved that we could live with. And now we're back again confronting all the same issues that we dealt with previously. I know one of you were able to go look at the site. That building pad that the architect referenced as being the logical place, I'll agree with that. It's the only place on that whole 12-acre site between the two parcels that anybody could consider building. And what we're confronted with now between the Patel parcel and this one is almost 12,000 square feet of homes that they want to put on what most people would consider at best adequate for a one-home site. So I really do think that this project goes well beyond what's suitable for that piece of property.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you.
Any additional speakers, please raise your hand. Seeing none.
Okay, now the applicant's team will have an opportunity to speak to any public comments that were presented. And you have 5 minutes.
Okay, so I guess a lot of history, which I've missed out on. When you talk about 2014, I mean, that's 12 years ago, right?
If you would address,
So let's
Mr. Papper.
get to the facts.
Here, excuse me. If you could just please address your
Yeah.
your
Okay, I'm
rebuttal to
sorry.
us,
I'm sorry.
and then it'll be captured in the microphone as well, and then.
Okay, so this is a brand new proposal. With respect to the branch cut on a tree, we had to cut that tree. I would have loved not to cut that branch on the tree, but it was about this height, couldn't even get a truck in. That is where we had to access to put our story poles up. I would have loved to have saved $1,500, but there's no permit necessary to cut a branch that's providing blocking access to our parcel. With respect to it being too small a site, I mean, this is 14-acre site for 2 homes. You know, most of this site is going to be viewed forever and ever by the city residents, by everybody. I mean, this is where homes have to go. The tremendous cost of building now is, you know, from my experience, it's just exploded. And of course you have to do homes that are of a certain size. And it's about the massing. We're here to talk about the massing. We have a single-story home. In fact, I have another design on the other lot, which I shown to Mr. Patel. You know, 1-story home with a garage below. That's the way to do these sites. Not the old-fashioned way, which you saw and they saw years ago, which was 2 stories with a big roof. You know, those are massive. They loom over the site. Not this one. This is very different. You know, a lot of talk about water. And it goes back to the reports, and you guys don't believe them, but the hydrology is an engineering discipline that's done by engineers, okay? Whether you get it peer reviewed or not, it's done by engineers, in our case, Human Company, longtime engineer, ISAT, you know, very qualified. I mean, these are just calculations that are done, and it's either you make it or you don't. So I know there's a lot of frustration here, and I'm willing to answer that, but we need to move beyond this. I hope we do, because it's just been too much nonsense, I think. And with respect to slides, I mean, here's a exhibit in the soils report that references a more recent map by the USGC 1995, and you know, that interpreted there are 3 landslide deposits located on both sides of the ridge line to show that no slide deposits within the proposed development area. So
Can you please address us
there's a
and not the
couple of
public?
there's a couple of very small slides, but they're very superficial. Okay, this is a very good site geologically. That's my point.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will bring it to the commission for discussion.
Can I ask
Yeah.
I want to ask staff a question. I just have been fumbling. I couldn't determine the date of the hydrology report. Can you tell us what that might be?
Pulling it up right now, Commissioner.
I also have a question for staff, so I'll wait maybe for that one, or
November 2025. Both reports. November 2025.
Okay, and then, Monica, and you had a summary slide that you presented during your staff report that kind of showed the history that's occurred. And one thing that I just would like to ask clarification on is towards on the right column of it. So most recently, I do remember seeing, parentheses. It either said like current owner. In my mind, that read as this is a new current owner and this owner didn't previously own the parcel nor submit any of the previous applications. Can you please just clarify the history on the site? A lot of the public comments that we're hearing are going back to items from, 2014, 2018. And I do agree that I remember seeing this as a planning commissioner, but just to be really clear that what we're seeing tonight is a brand new application that we're considering. But if you just kind of walk through the history a little more, that'd be helpful.
Yes, Chair. Yes, the reason why I had it written as current owner is because when I look at as I research these different applications, they have different owners listed. And then so when I looked at our GIS map, it showed who the current owner was, which was Collins. And so that's why I thought it was a different owner than the applications that I had previously saw because they had different names on the different applications.
Okay, so that's helpful. But then to clarify, how long back in the history that you shared was Collins the owner?
I mean, the application that I receive, how long back in the history?
I know it feels.
Yes,
like a
I know that he was
question.
mentioned in the history, but I was just going off of what the application shows.
Name,
So,
yeah.
yes, the application
Yeah.
names. And that's how I cited these application types. You go by application number and then the last name of the owner. And so that's why it's listed that way.
Okay.
Chair, I believe Gary Collins and his brother were the proprietors, the owners of Melcor Development, which go back to, I think, 2011 on these two properties. So I think that they purchased them and began the application development process and have owned both, or at least the east one, since that time. That's my understanding. I welcome any corrections.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah. The resolution says that the January 25th, the Hillside Homes Group, on behalf of the owners, submitted revised architectural plans for this project. But when I was looking through the materials, I thought that they were dated October 24th. And so I'm wondering if that is if there's a conflict there, or is there any substantial differences in what was recently submitted?
So, which page of the resolution?
First page of the resolution, it's
Oh, it's just, as these recitals go, when an application is submitted, we conduct a completeness review, and then we send a letter, and then they submit revised drawings, and then we review it again, and then we send another letter, then they submit revised drawings. So that sort of recitals just sort of illustrate that.
right. So there's nothing that if we look at the plans that were in the packet, those are really, we can still rely on those then.
They're just addressing incomplete items that are on the submittal checklist.
Okay, thank you. Anyone would like to start with any thoughts?
Well, I'm struggling a little. I mean, this is a phase one review. So we're doing siding and massing. And so I'm struggling a little to see if there are prior applications that we should be comparing it to, because I kind of took this as a different group and kind of a de novo project, but it sounds like maybe that's not the case. And so in the past, we've had, packages that would show like a section cut, and it would show a house downgrade, and it would show the old house and the, I don't know, what's that called? Declination? What's that when you like angle of repose, one of those terms? And then you'd see the new project. And, I think there was pointed out, you could take a 2-story house with a roof, or you could take a 1-story and bury it into and it could be a lot lower. But it's really hard to tell that through words. That's why you see pictures that show you, and it makes it easier, I think, for me to see if this, there's a reason we don't have square footage mandates in the code. It's because you could have a 2,000 square foot house that looks bigger than a 6,000 square foot house. So I'm not really keen on looking at the square footage relative to the last square footage and making a decision. We're looking at siding and massing. And so I'm finding that I don't feel like I have enough information right now. And that's what I want to share with you guys. So if there's more and I'm missing it, and but it seems like it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's why I was asking to clarify the ownership, and yes, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I have the same concerns, basic questions. How big are the retaining walls? How are them there? It's not a cold hard. I don't appreciate I don't like giving people a second bite at the apple, but I am disappointed that a lot of the same concerns we've had last time are still here, and they didn't make a better attempt to address it. I know that, hey.
Would they have retaining walls in a siding and massing phase 1?
Well, when you have, say, potentially 30 feet of retaining wall, you better have it up against the road. And remember, this is,
I guess what I'm asking, can this be deliberative here? It's not fully engineered, I understand. We're looking at siding and massing. It goes here and it should be this big. It's not being engineered right now. So I understand what you're saying, but there is that, phase 2 portion where the engineering should come in at full bore.
That's right. But if you remember, it used to be phase 2 would come back to us.
Right.
Now phase 2 just goes to design review. So
Right.
we have to weigh in now because we may not get it.
It still will be reviewed by city engineer, public work. It's reviewed by, we're not technical experts reviewing. I know you have technical expertise and everyone has some skills, but we're not, our charge is not to be the technical reviewers of these.
No,
per se.
I'm not saying we are or should be, but when reviewing the items and you have questions, and the questions relate to not did they do it right or wrong, is this complete?
Right.
Would I like more information? Would I like this? It shouldn't be unreasonable for us to say that, hey, I can't tell you. If I had to vote, I'd probably say no, but I'm not, I'd prefer just to get more information. The houses, it's kind of scary when you have to deal with potential flooding.
Well, I wonder, to your point, if we should clarify with staff. This is a complete application, I believe. So if it's a complete application and we don't have enough information, where's the miss? If it's complete and we don't have enough, are these being filtered correctly in how we should review them?
For example, I would say that, everybody's arguing about the drainage runoff. The hydrology report should be as part of our packet. We've had geotechnical reports in our packets before.
The hydrology report, it says in here that the that the city engineer has said that the hydrology report needs to be updated to match the design, but it hasn't been designed yet. I mean, it's been
Right.
preliminarily designed, but it hasn't been designed. But the city engineer is saying that, so I would assume that would have to be reviewed by the city engineer when it is final. Now, I'm willing to see if staff will confirm all this, but
Well, I also think we can make a request that that it is peer reviewed. And I do agree that once it's at the appropriate stage, I read it as that they are going to need to update the report. I can sympathize with the applicant that they're waiting to hear the comments, from tonight, so they're only doing it once. I can understand that. I do agree that when a retaining wall is on the front of the property, that does feel like massing to me when it's a giant retaining wall, even though, to your point, Commissioner Labange, we're looking at the massing and the location of the structure. Typically, a lot of times we see the retaining walls in the backyard, right? Not the first thing you see off of the main road. So I do.
well, that's why I was
Agree,
saying
yeah.
that side cut, I think we should have that in here. This is proposed, there's a nice graphic, but it really gives you no ability to see what's this like from the street, how big is this, and when we.
Yeah, we're looking at massing. Yeah.
Right, and when we look at those, which we do get those in packages, we've seen those before, it really helps you visually understand. Oh, wow, that doesn't look right. I can't tell that right.
I do feel some of the comments or some of the things that at least that I mentioned in the previous application would also be applicable here in the future. Having a real representation of what you're proposing relative to the street, relative to the neighbors is helpful.
I mean, can we ask staff that again? I mean, how much in a phase one should we be asking for things to these points that, it's one thing if you're on a flat level lot and it's a elevation we can look at and you see it's a 1-story, it's a 2-story. I mean, we've even had ones where we get the neighboring photographs to kind of get a sense, but on this one, let me just stop. How reasonable is it to get additional information at this level in a phase one?
It is very reasonable. The commission needs to be comfortable with the siting on the site and the massing. And to that end, it is incumbent on the applicant to demonstrate those aspects to the commission clearly. And this is not a flat site. It's very easy on a flat site to illustrate it, but you've articulated one of several ways to convey the siting and the massing on a sloping site. Section drawings, three-dimensional serial box renderings. They're simple, they're gray boxes. It shows massing. It shows the relative heights of things. It is routine for such. So it is not unreasonable to ask for those.
Can I just precursor question? Is that reasonable to put that as a qualification for being complete in a package? I mean, or is there judgment in that? So we don't necessarily want to do that.
Well, there's some degree of evaluation and a judgment around it, but no, I think that is reasonable to put as a submittal requirement. Arguably, I think that is in the submittal requirements. 3D renderings may not be in there, or digital massing models like a KMZ file that you could display in Google Earth. We are going to be adding that as a submittal requirement because it's very straightforward to do in today's day and age. It's like submitting a PDF now. It's routine.
So what I would like to maybe suggest and keep in mind when we're providing our comments is if someone up here does feel that maybe the information that they have to review tonight feels incomplete, if we could just be clear on what we are requesting to provide us more information that would then allow us to move forward with the application. I'd also just like to summarize the topics of the public comments we heard tonight. Multiple around the retaining wall, understanding a feel for the size and the massing of the wall. Staff, I do know there was a public comment requesting story poles to depict a retaining wall. Is that a reasonable request, in staff's opinion?
It is, provided that the feature is above existing grade. If the feature would be below existing grade, it's very difficult.
That's fair.
So
Yeah.
the only way to do that would be to use existing grade and go up, and then have a very clear qualifier on the exhibit that says, note, that element which is illustrated at this height would be globally reduced with the grade being dropped.
Okay, that's helpful. So we heard retaining wall comments. We've heard concern regarding hydrology and that the hydrology report be peer reviewed after it's updated. Same with the geotech report. We did hear a public comment concern for fire truck turnaround, and that having it on site is creating kind of a bigger pad area there, a parking, also mentioned the parking pad. And then it was either renderings or story poles for the retaining walls. And then commissioners have shared a request for visually depicting the massing in relation to the surrounding area as well as from the public road. I know that was just a recap, but what else would anyone like to talk about? Commissioner DeGiorgio?
Sure. I'm going to be a little bit of a different opinion than perhaps some of the other commissioners. And I feel that the design and the siding or the massing of the house as it's presented is acceptable to me. I do have a concern about how close it is towards the 3972 property to the east of it. But it's within specs. I mean, it matches the setbacks. I'm just concerned about the angle. But if they feel that they can design it, that's up to the phase two. That's a phase two question. So my only criticism on well, not my only, one of the criticisms I have is the figure 2 in the staff report, to me, is a little bit misleading, because what it gives an impression of is you've got a really big backyard that's just level, but in fact the very edge of that house is at the very beginning of the slope that goes up. So I'm echoing what others have said, that it'd be nice to have better representations of the massing, if that was possible. But I think that if you look at the different components of the resolution, I think it's workable as long as we have a really adequate phase 2. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Commissioner Mason?
Part of the nervousness, well, first of all, the question is, can we request phase 2 come back through us? Or does it have to go just to the design?
You can stipulate in the phase 1 approval that the phase 2 is acted on by the planning commission.
Thank you.
And I will also note, since I have the mic, that the phase 2 application is very much driven by the phase 1 siting and massing. And so getting that is why it is a 2-step, to get the early question or questions of where on the site and kind of how is it massed established early, without going to great lengths of time and investment to flesh out the entirety of the application. To answer those early questions get buy-in and approval, and then be able to move on to the more detail.
Okay, so in my other life, I do a lot of this, the peer review. And my general experience, and in most of your other professionals find it, when dealing, and I know human, I know him personally and professionally. What I found is generally when you're dealing with other professionals, it's not something that I would say something is wrong, but you get a lot of, have you considered this? Or what about that? And that's why I think it's important to have, if the drainage report is preliminary, that's fine. If the geotechnical report is preliminary, that's fine. You state where you are in the process, and that gives everybody, including the neighbors who, from the sounds of it, have legitimate concerns prior to all this, and they're afraid it's going to make it worse, a chance to come back and say, hey, in your final report, can you address A, B, C, and D? That would make me feel a lot more comfortable. And that's in some ways independent of the peer review. So right now, my general feeling is, hey, there's how are they going to build a 30-foot retaining wall? I mean, are they going to short? Are they going to drill 30-inch deep caissons down 60 feet? My guess is all the off-fall doesn't include all the spoils. Are you going to be blocking the road, Happy Valley Road? There's just a lot of questions, and at this point, I'm not prepared to vote for it until I get a chance to get these questions, because I can't pretend they're not legitimate questions.
Why don't we say what questions we want answered, and then we can, I think
Okay.
we're all kind of leaning that way.
Okay, I think I think I would like to get a better set of drawings, presentations showing the retaining wall heights. I think that we should have something, the hydrology, I think that needs to be buttoned up. And with that, I'd say just throw in the geotechnical as well. The pad, hey, if the house is what it is, yeah, I'm more or less inclined with it.
Can I make a suggestion? If we're doing a phase one so that people can get there and get a little direction before they fully engineer it. So maybe there's a threshold. I'm just trying to spitball ideas, because if we're going to have them do a phase two for phase one, then we've missed the point.
Yeah, I'd like to focus this on what do we need in order to vote on what's in front of us tonight. What is in front of us tonight is the phase one, so massing and siding. I don't want to discard any of the other public comments or commissioner comments. I'm open to the phase two coming back to us. And if we can maybe express now those things that we do want to see for the phase two, I definitely feel that we should. So I want to just ask you, Commissioner Mason, I do understand the height of the,
You're missing my major point, is that once we pass phase one, it locks in a 6,000 square foot.
so that's what I was going to ask.
On here. Now,
Yeah.
there could be some fatal problems. Hey, we don't like a 30-foot retaining wall. No, we can't overcome the drainage. Well, too bad. We've already approved.
No, they can't move forward though without getting through the phase two. I mean, we're not going to lock them into a deal just because phase one goes forward if it can't get through phase two.
But correct me if I'm wrong, staff, doesn't phase one, doesn't that guarantee them say a 6,000 square foot house on a pad at this location?
No, I think you can stipulate the maximum, and provided that the phase two meets the findings of the phase two and direction. I think prior phase one approvals have said, okay, this is the rough location and rough size, but the phase two will reduce the square footage by 20%, and that direction was made a part of the conditions of approval. I don't believe it was followed, but and I think that was part of the denial of the phase 2. But you can stipulate, approve a phase 1 with stipulations or conditions. And it's not a full-fledged entitlement because they have not gone through the second phase, which would be an entitlement.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe let's first start with siding and then we'll go to massing. How does everyone feel about the siding? Personally, I feel there's very limited locations. I think it is better to put in the flatter area versus cutting out the hillside. How do we feel about siding?
I'm fine with it. Yeah, I think we have to give people their reasonable expectation to develop their properties. And you're right, this is the flattest part.
Again, but siding and massing have to go together. In other words, if the house was, say, a little bit smaller and shoved back, then that hammerhead and the big retaining wall up against the road wouldn't be as onerous because it would be pushed back. In other words,
True.
you've got a flat site and looks like they've covered every square inch of it with driveway and the house. And some of those things might be a little bit less onerous if the house wasn't as big and then hammerhead was reduced.
But we're talking about siding, where?
Well, I know, but you can't look at siding without looking at massing.
Yeah.
That's where
I think we're trying to just break it apart so we can kind of get through it though a little.
I think that's the only place to put it. Yes, but do I think that but I think it's too much for that site.
Well, okay, that's next, massing. That's massing.
Okay, but I understand both points. Chicken, which way does it go first, right? Chicken or the egg? But I do understand your point, right? Of if something's half the size, there's more options. For example, for parking, driveway, retaining walls, that sort of thing. Commissioner DeGiorgio, did you have any?
I'm
thoughts?
generally okay with the siding. I wish it was perhaps when you look when you go up, when I went up on the site, my impression was they're going to have to do a lot of moving of dirt around to get the driveway and everything placed properly. And there's not a whole lot of, I think, room for moving it back and forth given the size of the house that's proposed. So I think that it'll work. But again, phase 2, we'll see what the walls are like. But I'm okay with the siding as is. That's what I'm.
Your lights on? Do you have anything? No? Okay. So I'm flipping to the resolution, and the resolution includes findings that the Planning Commission is asked to make tonight. So this is attachment 1. Development is consistent with the applicable goals and policies of the general plan. Development will preserve open space and physical features. Structure in the hillside overlay district will, to the extent feasible, be located away from prominent locations such as ridge lines, hilltops, knolls, and open slopes. Development, including the design and the location and massing of all structures and improvements, will, to the extent feasible, minimize the loss of privacy to surrounding residents, not have a significant visual impact when viewed from lower elevations. I personally, that's item D2, finding D2. I think that's hard to make with the information that we have in front of us. I'm just reading through them, so if anyone has anything, please just chime in if there's one you're not able to make. So now this is, yeah, go ahead.
Chair, can I'm of the opinion I can't make a decision tonight. So I thought we were leaning more towards what would we ask them to come back with for a revised phase one approval. So if we were, I thought that's where you were going.
Yeah, I'm trying to just help us come up
Yeah.
with anything to make a decision. And so you're saying that rather than voting yes or no, you'd prefer to request additional information.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd want like a section view. I'd also like proximity to the other houses. And I mean, since there's been discussions about size, I mean, I'm looking at one of these aerials and seeing really big houses near it. So I'm, I don't know all the house size, but maybe it'd be good to have an idea. We've
Seen that. Yeah,
we've had
definitely.
exhibits that show the relative neighbors and how big their houses are. And we've also realized that over time they tend to creep. So I'm okay if it gets a little bigger, but if it's, anyways, so that, we had also talked about story poles. I mean, oh, and I guess I was thinking the other one, to your point, could we ask them to do this? How big do you think a retaining wall you're going to need to do? Maybe they can't tell us that, but if they can, I think they should be hearing now that we want to really understand that, because that's going to cause that's going to cause a lot of consternation that we need to evaluate. So we need to see something.
I know in other projects, we've had rendering that said, this is the view from the street. Okay, even on the other side of the street.
Right.
If you're saying, hey, it's a 30 feet worth of retaining wall and then it takes off from there, you're like this.
Well, I do think with what they've shown now, it's fair of us from the section view to get what the view, what would you see? Would you be looking straight up to a wall and not see the house because it's so broad in front of you? Would you be seeing the house? You have a view like that we should be able to see that from the section view.
I mean, that's one of the requirements is
Right.
visual impact.
Yeah.
Down below.
So that might answer some of those questions at least.
And that's why I'm saying I don't have enough.
No, I
Okay,
agree.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't. either.
So in addition to the things you just listed, the massing box, I also heard earlier, like just a visual box representation. So we definitely have two commissioners who do feel that they don't have enough information. I'm on the fence about having enough information. I do really feel strongly the item D2 for the finding. I can't make that without understanding what the project looks like from the street, which I don't think we need to go as far as going from the neighbor's house at 4001. I don't think that's appropriate, but I do think from the street view, actually understanding what does this project look like? If you're only seeing retaining wall, show us a white box, or if you're seeing the home peeking up above it, show that. So in that, I can't make the finding, so I would not be able to vote in support of this. Therefore, I am open to requesting additional information rather than suggesting denial. I also know we're 4 people tonight, right? So I think we should make the best use of staff's time, of our time, and the applicant's time, right? This has come before the city a lot. So I think we owe it to the community to help create the best project. So let's be mindful in the information we're asking to come back. I would like to see also, if it does come back, that the phase 2 come to the planning commission. Like if we don't end up voting on it tonight, if we add that to our to our motion next time.
No.
Commissioner DeGiorgio.
I don't want to necessarily cut the design review commission out of it. It might be maybe staff can answer whether a phase 2 could be a joint meeting.
Classically, it would go to the DRC first.
Uh-huh.
They would make a recommendation to the planning commission.
Oh,
Yeah, so they would still get to see it.
that's what yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I'm great. I'm okay with continuing it for more information. And if we do that, I would like to see the some of the exhibits didn't really show the property with lot line changes. That was mentioned earlier by Anna, and I've also noticed that. It'd be nice to see what the proposed layout is with change in the lot lines.
Thank you. And then Commissioner Mason, can you just remind me, because I was writing down what Commissioner Labange requested, Commissioner Giorgio's comment. Can you please remind me or repeat what you said about the hydrology and that what you would like for the phase one?
First of all, before that, from the comments, it appears that the owners and the neighbors really haven't spoken that much. I would hope that before they come back,
There's conversations.
even if they disagree, at least they have a conversation, said, this is our view, this is their view. So at least you can define the problems. The concern is subterranean drainage that comes down, hits the house, and is redirected around that. You know, the status quo really isn't working anyway. So I'm not sure they make it
Let's
make
do
it worse.
actionable stuff though. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what I would like to see is I would like to see the hydrology report as part of the submittal package along with the geotechnical report.
The one that's that was already
Yeah.
prepared, not
Even
not
if-
requesting an updated.
Yeah, even if it's just
Okay.
listed as preliminary,
Yeah, that's
okay? And that's not unreasonable. It's already been done.
yeah.
right. It's adding it.
At least that way, everybody has it and they could look at it and say, gee, can you address A, B, C, and D? You know, and we all get this in our own chosen professions.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about this? And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, I think that's a fair request. Is there anything additional that would help
I mean-
make the findings for phase one?
I would also, I'd like to find out more, 30-foot wall is a big, 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 big retaining wall. I'd like to find,
Okay, excuse me.
okay,
No, just please. Thank you.
Mr. Patamont.
Thank you.
hold-
Absolutely not. Please stop speaking. Thank you.
Part of the confusion is there isn't a dimension or any information about the walls up on the street side of the driveway. Okay.
Yeah, so to your point, since there is no information, people might think it's 60 feet, people might think it's 30 feet, and the applicant might be
60.
concerned about that because, yeah, you're right, it might only be 6. But if it's not depicted anywhere, a commission can't make.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
'Cause we
that's
don't
fair.
want people come back and say, gee, you approved this Great Wall of Lafayette type thing. If you are looking at a lot of the walls, they talk about it's going to be on drilled caissons. I agree, that's the best way to go, but a little question whether the import-export includes the spoilage from the drilling of all those piers. Basis, I don't think I'm asking for anything unreasonable. I'm just asking for more information and make sure it's available for everybody because it might answer some of the questions for some of the neighbors or.
So what is, just so I'm clear, what right now do you want us to write down that we're gonna?
Hydrology and geotech preliminary reports.
Okay,
And the elevations to accurately depict the retaining wall heights on the plan, heights and horizontal steps between the walls. So that if it's terraced, that's one thing. If it's one great wall, it's another thing. So we kind of get a visual.
and we should see that in the section view too. Not to say
Yes.
I agree.
And
and I-
also basically something that depicts what it would look,
Yeah.
the house and walls look like from the far side of the
Yeah.
street.
That's fair.
And it
There's-
says from the public right away.
Public
So we
right
should-
Yeah, from the road.
Middle of the road or something.
Mhm.
I think we should also include the 2018 one, the one that you guys, I think that was right before I started, because I don't remember that. Because that one was denied and it seems like it's the same owner and I'm just a little nervous. I want to see what did our previous selves say didn't work and how does that look compared to now? It might be really obvious that these are different.
Yeah, so are you asking for that to be, just so it's really clear, are you asking for it to be shown visually or in a paragraph summary,
I would love to see that section view show.
side by side?
The new one and the old one, because that's pretty easy. That's not a lot of work.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't know that, I think it complicates everything. I mean, with.
But I mean,
with-
can you look at this write-up and can you make sense of what
No,
that means
I-
when it says it was denied? Because I can't. Without.
I was
having
going into this, as you mentioned earlier, treating this as a kind of a de novo a process, since the other one had been denied, and that's why I asked the staff clarifying questions about that. I think, I don't know how much looking at old plans will add to our.
I don't want to look at plans. I
Yeah.
want to look at a simple section view that should show us, you know what I'm talking about, right? So then
Mhm.
you'll see like
Mhm.
a mountain, you'll see a road, you'll see a house, and then maybe we'll see a different one, and then we'll see, did this really, and it should tell us if this has been designed. And listening to the architect or the applicant explain how this is put into the hillside, I want to see that, because that's the right design, and that's what he told us he was doing. I want to see it relative,
I see.
and I can't see that right now.
I see.
And just so I understand, so you can't see it with the current plan set, but seeing, how is seeing it against an old application
I don't really.
helpful?
I just want to see a section where somebody adds where that would, maybe that's asking too much. I'm not sure.
Well,
So I'll clarify. We heard you ask for clarity in this plan set alone relative to what's existing grade and what will be the finished condition and the height of those. It is standard practice to show that information on the plans so that anyone can view it and understand it in plan view, looking down on it. It's also standard practice to show it in section view, cutting through the site. And so that alone is what you asked for earlier. I also think it'd be great to be able to look at what it was before that was disapproved and what it is now. And if it's significantly better, that's informative. If it's the same or worse, then that's informative. So, but that is far secondary and should be a simple cut and paste snips to align those two drawings. But the basics of clear drawings for in plan view for the grading plan and sections, we'll have them for you.
feel good with that.
Perfect.
And Commissioner Mason?
And one thing in the hydrology report, I'd like to get a little, this has been back and forth, and the water has always been, a
Yeah.
little bit about the history of the reports, what suggestions have been made, because you and I were there when the first time came through, and I remember pretty much the same people came up and complained about the water running into their property. And I remember it being a concern. I don't remember how it was proposed to be addressed at that time. I don't remember some of the drain line, 21-inch drain lines and some of those suggestions. So
Yeah, summary of the history.
history
be-
of how to address because the problems have always been there.
Yeah.
Just a summary of the history of the different proposals on how to address those problems and why these new particular suggestions will work relative to.
And it might be the same,
Yeah,
and it might be
the
different.
same, yeah.
Perfect. Do you feel good, Commissioner DeGiorgio?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Mason, you feel good? Commissioner LeBon, so I did capture notes. I've heard a lot of typing. Is staff clear on the additional items, or would it be helpful if I read through my notes?
The only thing staff would like clarity on is the geotechnical report and the drainage report. What did Commissioner Mason request regarding those two items exactly?
Well, that they be included.
That they,
There is a geotechnical report and a drainage, and two drainage reports that have been included.
I would like to get them included in the packets.
Yep, we'll be sure to include them in the next package.
And I thought from the applicant that they'd already had a geotechnical review.
Okay,
Yep.
so,
Okay, and I'd like that included in.
yeah, in the next package,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, So then staff is comfortable with the comments we've made today?
Yes. Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. So then, how do we move forward? What do we don't vote. What do we do?
You would entertain a motion to continue the matter to a date certain in the future. We're recommending April 20 to allow the applicant sufficient time to give us materials. We can establish that deadline with them offline. So the deadline to submit materials, we get the chance to review them, have our colleagues in engineering, et cetera, review them, prepare the staff report, bring it back. We need to publish it in advance and give you time to review the materials that you've requested. So April 20 is our recommended continuance date.
Okay, and is it appropriate, or have you checked with the applicant team that they can meet the requested items by April 20th and working backwards with your dates, or?
We've not so checked. However, that's a pretty generous amount of time. So if need be, we could
Continue it
continue that
again.
into a future date. I just don't want to do it too early and,
Exactly.
put ourselves in a pickle.
Yeah, okay. Anyone interested in making? a
I will.
motion?
I move that we continue this item to a date certain of April 20th with all of the things we discussed tonight. That hopefully staff is, and if not, chair has them articulated. Is that enough? Do you guys feel like you have the list?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay.
So your motion is that we continue this till April 20th.
Changes requested.
Yeah, with the requested
Additional.
additional information that's been requested tonight.
I'll second that.
Just one comment. I know that there were some questions about, some people thought they may or may not have received notice, some of the neighbors. I would like you to check with staff and make sure you have your name on the list so that they will know to contact you.
And for the record, since the matter is continued and not a new hearing, we will not be providing second and additional notice. So we would ask you to let your neighbors know. And if any of them have any questions, feel free to contact us.
April 20th. April 20th. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So 4 passes, 4 ayes.
Thank you.
Go back to the agenda. Okay. Other business, item 7, ARC volunteer, another Friday the 13th. March 13th, anybody?
I thought I heard the vice chair on his way out.
Oh, yeah, he said.
I thought he said he couldn't.
What's all of them? I can, what day are we on now? I can probably do it.
If he can't, let's say we nominated him. You've done it a lot.
It's actually
Okay, great. Sign them up.
Yeah.
Commissioners reports?
Nope.
Excuse me, our meeting's still continuing, so feel free if you would like to talk, either the applicant team from the last item or public comments, but please do it out in the hallway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners reports? Planning director's report?
I'll be brief. The city council has requested a presentation from me and my team on development projects, basically a housing update of an influx of items and kind of where things stand. There's some projects that have been approved, what's going on with that? When do we expect X, Y, or Z to be complete and occupied? And then stuff nobody has seen yet because we're just receiving the applications and scheduling them. So you actually heard about one of the items earlier tonight. You discussed the project at Second Street. So that will happen just after 7 p.m. Ooh, it'll happen after a couple presentations at the council on Monday. So you're welcome to come into the room and hear that, or you can watch real time or on the YouTube after. Particularly if you ping me afterwards the following day, I can send you out a link to that specific item. It'll be about 20 slides, should be about 40 minutes, and there's a lot.
Would you, you said if we message you, you could send it out. Would you just be able to send it out?
I'm going to send myself a calendar event right now. Yes. I didn't mean to put that on you. I should do that.
Thank
And happy to.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. And I do appreciate the thoughtfulness around both items. So
Yeah, good job.
thank you. Meeting adjourned.